people that were waiting to get in are in. So welcome. We're so glad you're here. Before they go off screen, just wanted to mention that my wonderful colleagues, Gabi Matul-Wurst and Leslie Gonzalez are here. They'll be in the background answering, helping answer and facilitate answering questions. And so we'll just say goodbye for now, but thank you so much for being here, you both. And we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Share my screen here. All right. So if you did not know, you are here to go through the fall interim reporting walkthrough and Q&A. If you did not know you were going to be here for that, then maybe surprise, here you are. As you know, we've had so much change in this past year. So there's a lot to talk about, some differences that are going to happen in Seesaw. One thing to note in this presentation is that we won't be able to do an actual live walkthrough through Seesaw like we've done in past terms. And the reason for that is that there is going to be sensitive and private information, so we can't make up like a mock school or anything to do that. But we will have screenshots, and also always know that we're available to kind of do some training. So let's get started. Who am I? If you haven't met me already, my name's Carly Curley. My pronouns are she, her. I am here today wearing, I don't know, white shirts and some blonde hair, red lips, and glasses, and have a Wasac green background behind me. I'm the Assistant Director for Need-Based Programs, and I am the person that you likely hear from when it's asking questions into WCG or hearing from me through the interim process. But you may also hear from my friends that are here today too, Gabi and Leslie from time to time. So I'm happy to be here today with y'all. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about, well, again, I introduced myself, so check one, done. We're going to talk about some updates to Seesaw and what those might look like for you. We'll be talking about some upload, the file upload option, and we're going to walk through the interim reporting process and some reminders, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So like I said, feel free to submit questions through the Q&A function throughout this webinar. We will be tracking those, and if there's something that we need to answer right away, Gabi will pop in and let me know what the question is. So don't be shy. So one of the updates is while the file layout itself, so the Excel spreadsheet, the columns, everything is named the same, the data that goes into those fields are going to be a little bit different. And so the reason why that is things with enrollment intensity changes, which I'm sure you're all kind of being acutely aware of this year. And different FTI restrictions, we had to change kind of some of those fields and what they look like this year. So if you are looking for the layout and you're working with your team and making sure to get your reporting ready, to get that layout ready to be uploaded, there's specifics about that in the program manual from pages 70 to 74. They'll talk about exactly what to put in those fields. Mainly what you'll see is that some fields you'll be leaving blank. So some things like number in college or, specific income information you wouldn't be putting in the file anymore. Additionally, you'll notice that you're not going to be putting things like full-time, three-quarter time for enrollment. You're going to put actual number of credits that the student is enrolled in. And that is due to the enrollment intensity changes. So something really important to get that all started, get the interim reporting process started for those that haven't uploaded into the portal yet. That is something to be aware of and to make sure anyone that's helping kind of prepare that layout is aware of as well. So like I mentioned, income is no longer included through the file layout. So you're not going to be putting in a specific income that you based a student's award on. Instead, you're going to be adding a transaction number, which you have done in the past. But this is going to be very important for when you're doing your file upload. And it is something that you can edit still in Seesaw. So for example, if you upload your file, you base your award off of a student's transaction number, like transaction number 1, but maybe after that, the student completed PJ, and so you submitted information to the partner system, and then it came back as a transaction number 2, you could update that transaction in Seesaw to number 2 through the file upload process or just by editing the student's information, and it'll match to that specific transaction. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that works here. Seesaw will match and display the income for information, family size, and MFI that the student's award is based on. So we were thrilled, and I think we sent out some guidance or an email, an updated email to let you all know that we could post this information in Seesaw. Prior to that, we didn't have any information, and you might just get an edit and wonder, okay, how did that? Why is it not matching? I don't know why. So now you can look at and see how WASAC is determining the family income, the family size, and the MFI category, and that can start some clues about maybe why things are not matching. So right now, just want to give you a huge thanks for all those that provided feedback while we're fine tuning Seesaw and making sure that it's taking the appropriate information, and kind of delegating the hierarchy of, of data. It's been so helpful to hear from you all. So please don't be shy if you continue to run into situations with students that look a little funky or not what you anticipate. Please do reach out and we can look into that for you. We're happy to. One huge thing to be aware of, that's a change, is you can't edit income or family size or the MFI for that matter. So none of that information that's in that white box, you can't edit that. You can edit a student's, ID, their award information, their transaction number, but you can't make updates to the income this year. So something very important to note. So how does this happen? What's the process for matching a student's income information and determining their MFI and figuring out what the family income is for a student? So you are going to upload your file into Seesaw through the interim process, or maybe you have already. The file contains, the award amounts that you've given to the student, the financial aid application transaction number used to award that student. And so what happens is once you upload that information, Seesaw is going to match the information provided through the file upload to the FAFSA or WASFA transaction number reported. So, for example, on your upload, you have transaction number 1. Seesaw is we have that information. We say it's the FAFSA. It'll match to transaction number 1, and it'll put the family income and an MFI and family size based off of that transaction number. If the information does not match for some reason, or when I say doesn't match, perhaps the award amount is not correct for the MFI amount. That could be something you run into. So maybe we have a different calculated MFI based off of that FAFSA transaction than what you had calculated. There will be an edit. So as you know, edits populate, and these are usually going to be different reasons. There'll be different reasons for that, but that could be a potential reason. And we're going to walk through a couple of the newer edits here a little bit later in the presentation, just so you're kind of aware of what those might mean and how to troubleshoot them. So this is something we sent out and have been working on a lot. And so I thought I would just walk through this flow a little bit. So when we talk about data hierarchy in Seesaw, what we're talking about is how does Seesaw calculate family income and MFI when both FTI, so federal tax information, and manual income are reported on the FAFSA. So this is how we have programmed Seesaw to act. And so let's just walk through kind of what these different steps look like. So when FTI is present and appears complete, and the tax filing status and marital status appear in alignment, so it's going to just be FTI information. It's just going to use that full-on information that was from the IRS, and everything's in alignment. That's what it'll use to determine family income. When in instances of when people filed married filing joint, but now they've been separated, it should use manual fields were updated. So there might be instances where you update the manual information for separated, or the student did that through the FAFSA process or WASFA process. They've indicated they're separated, but they also have married filing joint FTI information pulled in. So it could use a combo of both things depending on what income are in what fields. So let me know if you have questions about that. And likewise, FTI manual fields in instances of PJ updates to some fields. So where some were left blank in manual entry, but then there's FTI fields exist, it may use a combo of both. Most times, what I've seen so far is when a PJ has been done, the manual income fields are complete, and it takes those into account when calculating family income. But there may be instances where it needs to use both FTI and manual income information. Likewise, as well, when there is data that's been updated in non-FTI fields, but not all fields have been updated, and this would be then the case of IRA and pension distributions, and then rollover data um, being manually entered and then correcting for SAI and also for MFI purposes. So those are kind of some of the ways that Seesaw is going to process the information on the FAFSA and WASFA applications, or FAFSA application, I should say. WASFA has all manually entered information, so this is really applying to the FAFSA applicants. Moving on to file layout, or file upload. That's our updates for now. Just wanted to kind of transition from that and let this is still a work in progress. We're doing everything we can to make sure that Seesaw is ready and prepped for the file layout process. So when you do notify us if there's any other scenarios that come up that don't seem to be working, I know I have one right now that we're researching. Uh, it's super helpful for us so that we can prep. So again, thank you so much for your time and effort and making sure it's working correctly with us. So big thing, we're talking about the incremental file upload, and that the reason why is because we're phasing out the full file layout. And really all that means for you is there's one additional column that you can or cannot use. It's up to you. It's up to your system's programming abilities. But essentially what it does is it enables you to use a change only file. The incremental file layout is just the same, like I said, as the full file layout was that you've used for years. It just has an extra column that says is delete, and that's for purposes if you are going to do a change only file. So what I would anticipate for you all is using that template. You upload all your students, when maybe you have for the summer one schools, or you'll be doing that for fall interim. You do a full file load. And then what you could utilize with this layout is you could just put any changes since that full file load. So you could say, these 10 students, they need to be deleted by indicating a Y in the is delete column. And it would only touch those students when you upload that file. So that's something to be aware of. It is a good tool, and also it's very similar to the unit record report. So for those of you that are working on the URR right now, number one, thank you for that, but also know that it's kind of similar to that process from URR if you are familiar with that. So just a reminder about that particular, like how the file reads when it goes into Seesaw. If you have a $0 in an award amount, that equals need met. So what you only want to use that in cases where it truly is need met. So if a student, say you've awarded their full WCG, but they truly didn't have room for their CBS or bridge or something, you could put a 0 in there, and then our system would read it as need met. If it wasn't a need met situation, you want to leave that blank if the student doesn't meet eligibility, things like that. And so two things. If it really is a need met situation, put the $0 in there, because that will avoid having to do a work and edit for that student. Because it'll know, okay, the need's been met. The system will know that. But also make sure it's only being used in need met situations. So it's kind of just a clarification piece there as we walk forward for the file layout. So where can you find the file layout template? In your favorite place in the entire world, the FAA resources page under the program manuals. You'll see it highlighted here for 2024-25. It's an Excel CSV layout, and you'll want to make sure that you're using the incremental file layout. You can technically still use the full file layout, I think, right now, but we will be phasing it out, and we'll let you all know. We'll make sure to give you plenty of heads up and information when that will come off the website and not be available anymore. You can also find this when you go into Seesaw and log in, and you'll see the different file templates that are there for you. And like I said, it'll be phased out. So just another reminder about the full upload, but feel free to use either for this fall interim. Hi, Gabi.
I will unmute myself. So there's a question that came in back more about the FAFSA, what we just went through.
Yeah.
The question from Adam is a lot of times when we are going through the FAFSA, we are seeing that they are not always putting the number of family members in the box, and we are
Mm,
having to go through all their information to make sure that it is correct. So,
mm,
my question is, are you guys doing something similar when determining their MFI?
mm. Yeah, so there is a hierarchy of family size as well, and it basically it has to do with where they put information. So Adam, I'm not sure if you're saying that they don't put any family size either in exemptions, assumed, or updated family size, but there's a hierarchy in which we look at those things as well. So I don't think we've been doing, like, to answer your question, we're not doing anything like specifically combing through FAFSAs and adding some family size, but we do have some hierarchy in terms of that number and family. And then we also, if there's nothing, if there's no assumed, no exemptions, nothing reported, we then developed a chart for specific family situations that Seesaw will assume their size. So that information is also on the FAA resources page, and it's under program guidance. You can find a family size guidance in that particular tab. So feel free to look at that. And then you can also reach out to us if you want us to kind of compare what you got, like as far as the number that you determined and what we have in Seesaw, or you'll see that in Seesaw as well. But that's kind of what I have for that. And let us know if you need any other clarification.
That was all.
All right, thank you, Gabi. Okay, everyone. Well, that's a perfect transition. We're going to go into the interim report walkthrough here. And please, yeah, continue with your excellent questions. Appreciate you all. So, as you know, this is going to start in Seesaw. So, Seesaw is going to be your place to begin and end the interim report process. And you can access Seesaw just from the home menu once you log into the WASAC portal. So there's kind of a flow, and it's also kind of a flow through the actual tabs in Seesaw, but this is kind of the flow for the interim report process. So if you're going to upload your report, you're going to resolve any of the edits, you're going to request any funds for the current term and any terms prior, and you're going to review your interim report, take a look at it, make sure it makes sense. Is there some weird numbers that you didn't anticipate? And we'll walk through that here soon, and then you're going to submit it. So that's kind of the flow. And like I said, this kind of is modeled in the way that Seesaw is set up as well. So you kind of have your upload process, you move to edits, you move to request funds, and then you move to the interim report to submit. So as long as you're working tab by tab, you know you're kind of going in the right flow to get this report complete. Quick question: who recognizes this wonderful boy band from the 80s and 90s? Yes, that would be NKOTB, my friends. I just could not help but think about this song when I was thinking about step one, can have lots of fun. Anyways, I will sing to you later, but this is what it reminded me of. So step one is going to be uploading your file. Um, you're going to go to the upload tab to do this. Excuse me. So you're going to go to the upload tab, select your CSV file to upload. This is always a reminder to say, make sure that you are looking, that you're grabbing the right file. This can be really detrimental during final interim time. Make sure that it's the CSV file so that Seesaw can read it. If there are any errors in your file, we will let you know, and we'll tell you the exact lines on the spreadsheet that they are on. And so, for instance, they'll be like missing this, this data piece, or no SSN, or I don't know. They'll give you a variety of different errors if it's missing, and you just have to fix it on your CSV and then re-upload. So, big piece to that. Once you review what that summary looks like and when you've uploaded your file, you want to make sure that you're looking at everything and it's looking okay. And this is just a moment to mention, if you see the need met awards, those are those $0 awards we're talking about. If you have a ton of those, there might be something wrong with your file. You really should have very few students where the need is met. in that way. And not very few, you'll have some. But if you see that you have more than, say in this instance, there's bridge students, there's 1,800, you have 500 that are need met. That might be something to take a peek at before you save the upload to Seesaw. So just a good time to make sure you're reviewing all of that, the summary, before you click save the upload. Note that save upload button is kind of something you need to scroll down to also. So sometimes it's like, yeah, I uploaded my file, but there's nothing there. It's just because you probably forgot to click save upload. So make sure you're doing that piece when uploading the file. So next is the most fun of everyone's life. We know that you want to go address edits, but I see Gabi. How can I help you?
Yeah, we've got lots of questions and
Ooh, okay.
let's see. Actually, it's three. But one question is, what about incorrect FTI data reflecting on WASAP compared to the actual FAFSA WASFA data?
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have WASFA students coming through without any SAI. Will we be given access to correct WASFAs this year?
Yeah, thank you. Excellent question. So in the case of mismatch, we're going to actually talk a little bit about that in the future, but it might have to do with the transaction number reported. It could have to do with maybe there is a scenario we haven't thought about for Seesaw, so you want to let us know. So feel all that to say, please reach out if you're finding that for some reason it's not matching. When it comes to WASFA students, yes, okay, yes, you will be able to do corrections this year. We are still working on it with our provider. So we're actively testing corrections right now, hopeful to have that for you. I know we've been working on that for a very long time. So we will be very excited and celebrate with you when that happens. This is important as well, as you all know, because you'll need to have the correction ability to be able to process PJ for WASFA and to get that income information matching. So yes, we will absolutely be implementing those, and we'll let you know as soon as those are in place in the system. If there To summarize, if there are questions where you see the information that is on, reported as family income, it's not making sense to you compared to your understanding of what should be calculated for the student's MFI, reach out to the WCG email. We can look into that for you. For the last question, I believe, which was the SAI calculations missing for WASFA students, that is an active ticket as well that we are working on. There's various reasons why that's been happening, and some of it has to do with when a student selects to do a paper signature or a wet signature. That can sometimes impact the SAI from being calculated. So we're kind of working towards troubleshooting that issue, and hope to have more information for you soon on that.
Fantastic. Next question. With the new awarding with credits, so the enrollment intensity,
Mhm.
what is the rule on rounding up, down, or truncate?
Oh, love that. That's a great question. So we have actually built in to the 0.25 degree of credit. So really, there probably doesn't have to be any rounding necessary. While back, we asked, kind of put out a little survey out there for schools to see, who awards in less than full increments for credits. So you will notice when you do put it in there, you have the option of 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. So if there's anything in between there, like maybe a point 0.3, I don't know. Uh,
0.33.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be traditional rounding rules. So when it comes to that, but yeah, you should see the options available to you in there on the menu.
And then this one's a little bit okay. So Zoe was asking, and this is a surprise to me, but
Mm-hmm.
she said last year there was an option to not update any passport information when uploading a file.
Mm.
That doesn't appear to be an option this year. Is she missing something, or has this
Mm.
changed with the incremental upload template? So Carly, I just went online to check it,
Yeah.
and it does not ask if I want to skip the passport. And I wasn't
Mm.
aware of that changing. I'm not sure if you were.
No, no.
We will bring that to our IT team and see if it was a result of the incremental file or what. But thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will definitely address it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Zoe. Appreciate you.
Okay, so Shannon is asking, we very much appreciate all the work you have done to update
Mhm.
Seesaw. One difference we have noticed between the federal calculation and the state calculation is as follows. When the contributor manually reports a $0 AGI but has wages, the federal calculation is using the $0, but the state calculation is using the wages when they are tax filers.
Mhm.
Is this as you intended? The record is not selected for verification by the feds.
Yeah, great question, Shannon. I think someone else brought that up this week. That is a current ticket we're exploring. So lots of fun things, and I wish I had a direct answer for you now. I think one of the questions we did have for schools, so something to think about, is even if they're not selected for verification, sometimes in these instances, the student or the parent is reporting the same in income worked with a $0 AGI that was the AGI for their married filing joint. So we're not sure if schools, actually verify that information or see that as conflicting. I'm not sure, but we are absolutely looking into the treatment of that in Seesaw, because as we talk about in the manual, the it should be based off of the AGI, not unless they're a non-filer. So yeah, so we more information to come about that. Appreciate you bringing that up, and we will be sending out info.
And finally, Jocelyn is asking, what is the maximum number of credits you can list? And the answer to that is 25 credits. Anything above that, just say 25.
Yeah.
And then you have a super, super student if they're doing more than that. But yes,
Yeah,
great
they are.
question.
Yeah.
That is it for now.
Thank you. Great questions, everyone. Appreciate that. All right, so we're going to move on to edits, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We This is probably what takes everyone the most time, of course, as a part of the interim, understanding what's going on with students and how to resolve the edits. So we're going to move on to this section. So when you click on the edits tab or click on address edits, it's going to bring you to your full list of edits. Uh, you will want to click on a given edit to see a list of students and what terms it applies to, and a total and full list of students that you need to resolve. On the edits page, you're going to notice that there's going to be edits listed, and then there's going to be a certain amount listed as informational. So informational means that you don't have to resolve that edit to be able to move on with submitting your report. But it is important to review those edits, and those can look like, the Washington College grant is perhaps less than it's expected. So you might want to take a look at those and just make sure that that's on purpose, or and review them. It could be those that have less than a certain amount of QER to review. So they're good things to be able to do. Although you can submit your interim report without it. Also, time to mention that, and we'll talk about this edit again. Also, everyone's favorite edit in the future, but is the CBS is not okay to pay. That edit, you can submit your interim report again with that edit in place, and there's a reason for that. That has to do with verifying high school information for students, and like I said, we'll talk about that here in a moment. So click on that edit to view the students associated with it. All the students' names will populate. You can click, there's a little box with an arrow next to the name. You can click on that box to open a new tab to review the student detail record. I like sorting by last name just because it'll group all of the different terms that is associated with the student together. So you kind of know which ones you need to resolve, and just easy flow for working through the edits in my opinion, but you do you. If you can fix the override, uh, or which override needs to go in and populate for the given situation, you can do that directly on this on this edit screen without having to go into the student detail. But usually you'll need to look into the student, see what's going on, and see why they're receiving that edit. So really good to be able to look into that. So once you're in the student detail record, there's going to be some things you see in here that are very important and very helpful. So when you go on there, go in there, there's going to be like a box with like a little triangle, red triangle in it. That indicates that there's still an edit for the student. Edits are going to populate either by term. So it'll be next to the fall or summer, whatever term it is, it'll be next to that term. So it's term specific, or it could be a student based or academic year based edit. And that's going to be at the top where the academic year is listed. So that's going to apply to the entire student's award. And they're going to vary depending on, what is actually going on. So for example, in this student, we see, they have the bridge students must receive maximum Washington College Grant Award, which is a pretty typical one. This just means that the student's receiving a lower amount in Washington College Grant than they should be, and they're awarded the full bridge amount. So you always want to make sure that the student is receiving the maximum Washington College Grant first before they're awarded any other funds. So that's something to be aware of, and just something specific about edits. There's information in here that's also helpful for you as you are, moving through this process. So a little bit lower, not pictured here, when you select a given term, it's going to give you the max or the award amounts that a student should be awarded. So it'll tell you what the WCG amount should be. It'll tell you what the CBS amount and or bridge, depending on what the student's situation is. It'll give you those amounts. So if you're getting some sort of edit that's like, they must receive maximum WCG, it'll show you what that award amount should be for that student. And something to just be aware of as you're working through, and as you're used to the old way of reporting enrollment, you're probably used to, 75% of the award, 50% of the award, stuff like that. Well, really now, they're going to receive specific amount with their credit, their enrollment intensity. So if they're in, 8 credits, they're not going to get a halftime amount. They're going to get specific 8 credit amount in that award. So something just to be aware of. There are the enrollment intensity charts on the FAA resources page in case you have any questions for both. There's all information for clock hour, semester, and quarter-based schools on there. But it's really good information for you. Like we talked about before, you'll see the family size, so there's going to be some clues to give you to try to look and see, okay, what's going on with this student and why am I getting this edit for them? So lots of information in the student detail record. Once you make corrections there, say it's an award issue. So say we're talking about this specific issue where the student, needed to have a higher amount of Washington College Grant, and they just needed to be adjusted. You're going to click on that edit box. It's like a little pencil with a with a square that's going to be in the right hand corner. And you can click to make edits to the award amounts. You can edit the transaction number there, enroll it, yeah, their credit amount, their award amount, and their transaction. Anything can be edited in that space. You're going to want to make the updates and click Update Student to save that information. So once you save, you can refresh the student edit detail page, and you should see that the little edit box with the triangle in it goes away if you've resolved that edit. If not, you're going to have to figure out the next fix for it. Maybe it's an override, maybe it's something else that you have to resolve to be able to fix it. But that's a good way to double check that, okay, I edited it, it's good to go, or I need to do an override for the student. So we're going to just highlight a couple different edits that are going to be out there, maybe that are going to be new, or just ones that are important to kind of understand for this fall interim reporting period. So first one that's new, student does not have a FAFSA or WASFA on file. So we've had some questions about this one. Why do you get this edit? This appears when Seesaw cannot find a financial aid application for the student. It can't match an application to them. So there could be reasons for this. Maybe the ID doesn't match what is reported on their application. They haven't listed your school on their financial aid application, or maybe the transaction number reported doesn't exist yet. So for example, for a FAFSA, maybe you reported number 3, but there's only 2 transactions. And so, Seesaw's going to be like, there's no FAFSA with that number. Likewise with WASPA, maybe you report in like the same, fashion as FAFSA, like 1, 2, or 3, but really WASPA start with the number 50. So it just needs to be updated to the accurate transaction. Some things that we've been running into this year with WASFAs specifically is students that had never listed an SSN or ITIN previously. So they were reported, say, on their WASFA application ID, but now they've listed an ITIN or SSN for this year. And so what's happening is that Seesaw is going to match in a hierarchy of their ID. And so what that means is that you would need to change the ID that the student's awarded under, and you want to confirm that the ITIN or SSN that the student reported was correct. And so this is the order in which that Seesaw is going to match IDs with. It's going to match the SSN first for a student, a WASFA, then the ITIN, and then the WASFA application ID. So that's kind of the order we have it in. So if they don't have an SSN reported, it'll match to the ITIN. If they have no ITIN reported, it'll be matched to the WASPA ID. And those WASPA IDs typically start with 98. We did learn that ITINs can also start with 98. So something to know, just to be a little bit confusing for y'all. But those are a couple ways that we found to troubleshoot this specific edit. So moving on from here, this is going to continue to be an interesting edit for schools. Student is okay to award, not okay to pay, and hasn't been awarded CBS. So students receive this edit when they have verify in the checker in the high school grad year or 2.0 GPA field. So there's information that needs to be verified. They're okay to award because they're CBS eligible until proven otherwise. And so there's some steps that have to be taken. So what needs to be done? School should be requesting a high school transcript for students in this case. Um, excuse me, if they don't have one on file. So if you do have a transcript on file, please use that information to update the checker. And I'll kind of go over some specific situations where you don't want to do that, but for traditional Washington State high school students, or if you have students that have a GED, or for 2-year schools, if they completed the high school program through your school, you can update the checker with their information. Updating the checker with your information will allow CBS to be okay to pay, and or you will be updating it to say, they're not eligible, whatever the situation may be. So that's that. If you are in the process of collecting the high school transcript, you don't have it yet, what you're going to want to do is award CBS in the portal. Sorry, so much coughing today. Award CBS in the portal, and then you will want to uh, put it at offered status or whatever your system has available until you can collect that transcript. So what we don't want to have happen is bridge awarded in lieu of CBS. You definitely want to wait until you verify that the student either is or is not eligible for CBS before any bridge is awarded to the student. So that's kind of a little bit of extra work that has to be done for these students. And what things to think about, we have this in the manual, but you want to make sure if you get a high school transcript, there's some situations where our college bound team needs to review it specifically, and you should not be updating the checker for. So instances are homeschooled students that had high school outside of Washington, students that were former foster youth with a GED, and there's some other scenarios that I believe are in the program manual. And the reason for this is because these students may actually be eligible, but the college bound team has to determine and get some additional information from the student to see if they would be eligible. So yeah, just pay attention to where's the transcript from, where does it need to go, can I update the checker? Those are kind of the things that need to happen with this. And this is the specific edit where you award CBS. You'll get the CBS is not okay to pay edit, but you can still submit your interim report with that edit. That was a lot of information. I want to make sure that I highlighted everything I needed to let you know about this one because it's very specific and requires a little bit of extra work with the student to make sure that they will be eventually okay to pay. Oh, I think we had a question before about why wouldn't a student have graduation information in the checker since we are connected to OSPI? And the reason for that could be these instances of homeschool, graduated outside of Washington State, things like that. But there's other times where, schools haven't reported their graduation information to OSPI, so we just don't have it available to put in the checker. There's just a handful typically that this occurs for each year. So if you have any other questions, please do let us know. But I do know that this one's always tricky and people have questions about. So I wanted to make sure I spend some time on it. Okay, this is another one that's relatively new that we thought we would mention. The student has been awarded WCG and WGA in the same academic year. And so this edit specifically occurs when they have WCG at your school, but they've also received a WA grant for apprenticeship through an approved apprenticeship program. Really, you just need to select a couple of overrides. If you already worked with us, or and you've decided, okay, we're only going to pay on tuition and books only for this student, because we knew that they were, awarded through an apprenticeship program. You could select that override, but another override you can select is WASAC to verify that the student is not over awarded between WCG and WGA. We will see that. We'll make sure to connect with our WGA friends, double check, and we'll reach out to you if there's any issues with the awarding or if anything needs to change. Likely they're, we don't know. It's likely that there's nothing that needs to change, but it just depends on the situation. So we'll reach out to you. All right. So edits, that's a lot of edits information. I know there's probably so many questions about different kinds of edits. And someday if we can create a system where I can just walk through and give examples, I would love that. So we'll see what's available in the future. But hopefully that at least gives you an idea of the process flow. Some edits that might need some special attention, and maybe some new ones that you might didn't know what to do with, and now know what to do. So step 4 is to request your funds. So you will always, as a part of this process, you want to make sure you request any funds for the term that you're working on. So for fall term, you want to select fall, and you'll also want to select for any prior terms before that. So for the fall interim reporting period, you'll do fall and summer, um, request the funds for those. In this example, you can see there's still a bunch of edits that haven't been resolved. So it would only select the students that don't have edits for this funds request. But hopefully what you see when you log into the request funds tab, or log when you go to the request funds tab, is what you'll see is that there's no edits and you can request any funds needed for those terms. Funds can be requested up to 30 days before the start of a given term, so you can feel free and start requesting those 30 days in advance. You can request the ones that you haven't worked on edits for. That's totally fine. And we just want you to be aware of and be thinking about making sure you're requesting funds frequently and regularly throughout the year, to make sure that you're, mm, requesting and reporting as needed, and getting those funds to your finance office on a timely manner as well. Easiest way to do this is to, when you get to the request funds tab, is to select choose all students by program. And then you select the terms, you can select the boxes, and that will select all funds associated with those terms. And yeah, just make sure to select any prior terms as well when you're in an interim reporting period. To officially request the funds, you want to click on I agree to request the funds. You can feel free to review your people. Hi, Gabi, I see you. And you want to make sure you do select that. And then you'll see a confirmation appear that your request has been submitted to WASAC. What happens from there is you can download a list of your students. So if your finance office ever has questions about like who the group of students were that were in a particular request, there's CSV download options there. That request then comes to us, and we review those requests on a daily basis. Hi, Bobby. What can I help with?
Hi. Just wanted to clarify because a question came up. So on the
Yeah.
last slide, you said that you can request funds even if you haven't done the edits. But I think
Mm-hmm.
what Carly meant to say is
Mm-hmm.
that you can request funds for all of the students that
Mm-hmm.
didn't have edits prior to having to complete all of the edits for the other students.
That's correct.
Hopefully that makes
Yes.
sense.
Sorry if I missed that. Thank you for asking.
And then I'm not sure how many more slides you have. maybe we can hold this other questions till the end.
Okay. Yeah, we have, let's see, we have about 5 more. So let's run through and then do a couple more questions at the end. Thank you. All right. So next is to submit your report. So big things on here that I want to mention is you want to review your report. So you don't want to just go to this tab, click the blue button, be like, boom, done. I mean, I know you probably feel that way. Probably by the end of your interim report, you're so excited. You're like, I did it, ready to submit. Just a couple things to take a peek at. View your students, view the information that's reported there. You'll see on the left-hand side, I put a little circle that says make sure to review all funds. In those different tabs, awards and payments, total eligible, any receivables, there's really good summary points for you. So you can kind of see, how many students did you report? Does that look correct? Does it look like your student population and how many you anticipated reporting? Does the total amount of awards and payments look correct to you? So you want to do like an initial review before you actually hit the submit button. Um, so once you've reviewed everything, you're like, yes, this looks awesome. Click on the submit interim report to submit. If the interim report button is not there or it's grayed out or you can't see it, it's likely that there's still edits that need to be resolved, and that's why it's not letting you submit it. So if you do run into any issues, of course, reach out. Happy to help you. Happy to try to troubleshoot for you if there's something going on. So, a confirmation email is going to be sent to you, the person that completes the interim report, and to our email as well. What happens from there is our team receives that email. We actually go in and review every single override that you've submitted, and we will do that a lot of times before you submit your report just for flow. So, if you're working and you're like, hey, I actually addressed that student. Uh, why is it back in here? That's super weird. It could be that we didn't approve one of your overrides. So I'm not going to actually go back to a screen to show you where that information, because I think I forgot to share that. In the edits section, oh, right here, where you see the bridge students must receive maximum WCG award, if you've done an override, it will show under that edit, and it will also show if we have denied that override, and we'll always provide a reason for you. We'll always say this student must receive, WCG, or can you clarify this thing in the override. So we'll always give you instructions of kind of what needs to be done or something we might have a question about. And this is exactly where you can see that information. So once we review all of your overrides, sorry, tabbing really fast here. Once we review all your overrides, they're good to go. Your report will be done and finalized, ready to go. If we do have questions, if we weren't able to approve some of the overrides, we'll respond to the email and we'll let you know, hey, these are the edits that need to be reviewed, and here's the reasons, or here's the things that need to happen with these edits. So we'll always give you some instructions and what needs to happen to be able to finalize your report. So here's just a list of reminders for you. Request all payments before submitting your report. If there's an owing balance, so say you end in like a negative number after requesting funds, you don't need to submit a payment to us. Basically, the reconciliation process happens after the final interim each year. And really, throughout the year, schools are kind of submitting, requesting, changing funds, adding funds. And really, it's just kind of working out until the end of the year. So don't feel like you have to, or don't please send a check to us, or we don't need any payment if you're in the negative amount. Usually, this will eventually work itself out throughout the year. Pay close attention to the due date and start early. So we always remind people to do this just because it can get very stressful if you're waiting till that last week to submit everything, and then you get really fun emails from me about, hey, we don't see your report, and probably stressing you out a little bit more. We don't want to do that. So if you can just work your edits or even upload your file early and then just start working your edits little by little throughout the time period, it can really help you. And I know that that can be difficult. And I know that there's so many things going on right now. So fully understand that and understand everything that you're holding at this time. But if you have the ability to do so, this is a great way to do it. We did extend the due date another week, so you'll have 5 weeks to complete the interim report. So if you can start that, as close to October 14th, at least uploading your file, that's going to help you out in the long run. And then if you have questions, if you don't understand something, there's no bad question. Please let us know. We will get back to you really quickly. If we typically get back to you, within an hour, we're here, we're monitoring the email and making sure that we can respond to you. Hi, Gabi.
Hi, I'm waiting for you to finish.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah. No, that was it. That was it.
I just wanted to throw out another thing about the due dates. We are
Yeah.
well aware that you have URR opening, you have URR now, there's federal reporting. Um, and so we went and talked to our forecast council folks
Mhm.
who are the ones that do all the forecasting for the legislature for when we are requesting funds to fund our Washington College Grant and all the other programs. And so we did work with them closely to see what the latest they could accept or
Mhm.
needed to have the data. So being able to push the due date out a little bit um, hopefully is helpful to you, but that also limits us on the ability to give any extensions. So please keep that in mind that we did go as far as we can on this one. So
Mhm.
hopefully you won't need any extensions, but please work with us very closely as we have to get this data in as quick as possible.
Thanks, Gabi. Yeah, appreciate you saying that. And yeah, just work with us. Let us know what's going on. It's always great to have communication, from schools, so we know kind of what's happening and what's going on. So appreciate your time and attention for this. And that brings us to question time. I know I didn't realize how many things I had to share with you today, but we have a little bit of time for some questions. Is there anything that we can
There,
help address?
there is one right now in the regarding WASFAs.
Okay.
Says when a student lists their ITIN but
Mhm.
previously came through as a WASFA ID, does the student need to log into their WASFA to update the SSN line to their WASFA ID for it to link?
Mm, no, yeah, the student doesn't need to do anything. They've actually answered that question correctly. And something that's a little bit different this year on the WASFA application is that the SSN and ITIN are two different fields. Before it used to be a combined field, and now the student can list whatever appropriate type of IDs are in that field. So the student doesn't need to do anything. What typically needs to happen is they probably do have the same WASFA ID on the application. If they don't, that's a whole different issue that we probably have to work through. Um, and that will happen. There's a couple different steps that we have to take when corrections are available and the student has used a different WASFA ID. But if this is just the case, kind of like I talked about prior, where a student has had a WASFA ID in the past, but no ITIN. And then in 2024-25, they added an ITIN to their application. What has to happen is a school needs to award them on their ITIN. So when there's an issue is when the school awards still on the WASFA ID, and so CSAW is not going to recognize or match the WASFA application. It will match it to the ITIN. So yeah, I think that's a I'm seeing the questions here. It's coming up as an edit. Yeah, that's why. So the reason why it's coming up as an edit is it's not recognizing the WASP application ID anymore. You will need to in the student detail record, you can edit the ID to the WASFA, or sorry, to the ITIN. But be aware when you do that, it deletes out the information that you have already put in there. So you'll need to have all the WASP information and your awarding information uh, but once you edit that ID and award the student under that ID, that will take care of the edit. Now, the second step is if you have received funds for that student already, it's going to keep that WASFA ID and those awards in the system. So the next step for schools is to delete the awards off of the WASFA ID. And then what we do is perform a merge of those records. So it's kind of like a three-step process. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you need some clarification. But awarding them under the ITIN, if they have one, will resolve edits. And then it's a matter of us merging records and making sure they're awarded off the correct ID number.
And just to add to that, because we did have one question earlier that I typed in the responses. If you do have issues like that, please email wcg@wasac.wa.gov and we'll dig into the student.
Mm-hmm.
If you just let us know what is their confirmed SSN or ITIN, because sometimes they use all sorts of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And just let us know that your records show that their confirmed SSN number is this. And then we will go in and search the student and look for all the different IDs that the student might have used over the years, because some have used quite a few because they forget
Mm-hmm.
their WASPA numbers and create new WASPAs every year. So they get assigned new numbers. But so it's important for you to let us know so we can research and make sure we catch all of the students' records and merge them for you.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to do that.
Yep. We're pros. We are pros at
Yeah,
that.
we are getting really good at that. So there's a follow-up to that question though. It says, but it's coming up as an edit that the student hasn't completed a WASFA.
Yeah. And that is something that is unique, I think, to this year. It's if the student is awarded, even if they have the same WASFA ID from year to year, I've noticed that what happens is if they did report an ITIN, it won't recognize their WASFA application unless the student is awarded under their ITIN. Likewise with an SSN. So this is kind of the hierarchy of awarding that we talked about. They should be awarded under their confirmed SSN first. Then, if they don't have a confirmed SSN, they would be awarded under their ITIN number second. And then, if they have neither of those, they would be awarded under their WASFA ID. So, if you can see that the WASFA application's in the portal and you know they have a WASFA application, it's likely it has to do with the number that they're awarded on in Seesaw.
Another thing is if you're looking at their PDF or if you look at their WASFA information in WASAC portal, you'll be able to see which ID numbers they've put in.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't put in their, like say it was always on their WASFA ID and you have their ITIN and it's not there, yes, they can go into their application update and add on the ITIN. And I think that might help with the matching. Um, I think that's some of the guidance we've given in the past is to have the student do it. That's probably the quickest way since we don't have corrections. Um, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Next question. Could you clarify when a CBS student is awarded for passport and their total state aid exceeds the total max WCG and CBS eligibility amount? Can we award Washington Bridge Grant in this case?
No, is the answer. A CBS eligible student can never receive Bridge Grant. So that's the thing to remember. If they are eligible, even if they're not receiving CBS, because of this great example is they're receiving PTC, their commitment has been met, they can't get Bridge Grant. The interesting thing is, and I'm sure this is partly the question, is that those who are not eligible for CBS can receive Bridge Grant with Passport. So it is a little bit of a catch-22 that way. But I will say that the real key there is CBS eligibility. So if you see in student detail or in the student detail record or through your checker report, you see that they actually are CBS eligible, they're never going to be eligible for Bridge Grant in that case until they maybe run out of QERs. But we gave some more this year, so there's some more eligibility for students. Any other questions? All right. Well, again, thank you all so much for spending your time with us this morning. We have recorded this. We will be posting this along with the slides onto our website shortly. We'll make sure that that's available out. So if you have any colleagues or anyone else that you know that couldn't attend, please let them know. It'll be up on our website. And again, thank you so much for all you do to support our Washington students from the bottom of our heart. We're so appreciative and grateful for this community. And if there's anything else that would help the interim process, please reach out as well. we're always open to suggestions and in ways that we can help make things better for you all. So have a wonderful day and thanks for being here.